Welcome to my channel. I am Daisy. In this video we continue on with the book titled Power Through Constructive Thinking by Emmet Fox. This is a group of essays that he's put together, and before I get on to the next section, I will give you just a little of my takeaways from the previous essay. It was titled The Garden of Allah. The first thing I ask is, why are there so many names for God, right? I wonder if it had to do with the Tower of Babel and just to confuse people, right? I decided to look up the etymology for the word Allah, and it is the Arabic name for the Supreme Being. So when we say the Garden of Allah, we're like talking Arabic at the same time. What does it mean? I do have in the description some links if you want to check it out. It is of Arabic origin, and it means the God. Literally, the breakdown of that word in Arabic is al means the, and la means God. So the God, the Supreme Being. So the Garden of Allah is Emmet Fox's interpretation of the book of the prophet Isaiah 35. And in a nutshell, through this beautiful story that Isaiah wrote, was giving us hope that in the driest places, in the barren places, we shall find redemption. We shall find paradise. There is a reference of desert there, and the blooming of a rose, and the transformative power of water. For me, it would translate to, us at the individual when we are at our lowest and we have nothing to give, nothing to offer. And when we allow that spirit to quench us, it fills us. That kind of, sort of, right? And there was another part where Emmet Fox talked about the journey of spirituality, that it's not something that you can just try halfway. It's not like, you're going to go in with a little finger and think that you're going to get a whole experience out of it. If you put in a little, you're only going to get a little. But if you go in with your whole body, you're going to be transformed. So without further delay, I'm going to jump right in to this next section. Power Through Constructive Thinking by Emmet Fox. This book is in the public domain. Section titled The Golden Key. Thou hast made us for thyself, and our hearts are restless until they repose in thee. Augustine. Foreword to The Golden Key. I have compressed this essay into a few pages. Had it been possible, I would have reduced it to as many lines. It is not intended to be an instructional treatise, but a practical recipe for getting out of trouble. Study and research are well in their own time and place, but no amount of either will get you out of a concrete difficulty. Nothing but practical work in your own consciousness will do that. The mistake made by many people when things go wrong is to skim through book after book without getting anywhere. Read The Golden Key several times. Do exactly what it says. And if you are persistent enough, you will overcome any difficulty. The Golden Key. Scientific prayer will enable you sooner or later to get yourself or anyone else out of any difficulty on the face of the earth. It is the golden key to harmony and happiness. To those who have no acquaintance with the mightiest power in existence, this may appear to be a rash claim, but it needs only a fair trial to prove that, without a shadow of doubt, it is a just one. You need take no one's word for it, and you should not. Simply try it for yourself and see. God is omnipotent, and man is his image and likeness, and has dominion over all things. This is the inspired teaching, and it is intended to be taken literally at its face value. Man means every man, and so the ability to draw on this power is not the special prerogative of the mystic or the saint, as is so often supposed, or even of the highly trained practitioner. Whoever you are, wherever you may be, the golden key to harmony is in your hand now. This is because in scientific prayer, it is God who works and not you, and so your particular limitations or weaknesses are of no account in the process. You are only the channel, through which the divine action takes place, and your treatment will really be just the getting of yourself out of the way. Beginners often get startling results at the first time of trying. For all that is absolutely essential is to have an open mind and sufficient faith to try the experiment. Apart from that, you may hold any views on religion or none. As for the actual method of working, like all fundamental things, it is simplicity itself. All that you have to do is this: stop thinking about the difficulty, whatever it is, and think about God instead. This is the complete rule. And if only you will do this, the trouble, whatever it is, will presently disappear. It makes no difference what kind of trouble it is. It may be a big thing or a little thing. It may concern health, finance, a lawsuit, a quarrel, an accident, or anything else conceivable. But whatever it is, just stop thinking about it and think of God instead. That is all you have to do. The thing could not be simpler, could it? God himself could scarcely have made it simpler, and yet it never fails to work when given a fair trial. Do not try to form a picture of God, which is, of course, impossible. Work by rehearsing anything or everything that you know about God. God is wisdom, truth, inconceivable love. God is present everywhere, has infinite power, knows everything, and so on. It matters not how well you may think you understand these things. Go over them repeatedly. But you must stop thinking of the trouble, whatever it is. The rule is to think about God. And if you are thinking about your difficulty, you are not thinking about God. To be continually glancing over your shoulder, as it were, in order to see how matters are progressing is fatal, because that is thinking of the trouble, and you must think of God and of nothing else. Your object is to drive the thought of the difficulty right out of your consciousness, for a few moments at least, substituting for it the thought of God. This is the crux of the whole thing. If you can become so absorbed in this consideration of the spiritual world that you really forget for a while all about the trouble concerning which you began to pray, you will presently find that you are safely and comfortably out of your difficulty, that your demonstration is made. In order to golden key a troublesome person or a difficult situation, think, now I am going to golden key John or Mary or that threatened danger. Then proceed to drive all thought of John or Mary or the danger right out of your mind, replacing it by the thought of God. By working in this way about a person, you are not seeking to influence his conduct in any way, except that you prevent him from injuring or annoying you, and you do him nothing but good. Thereafter, he is certain to be in some degree a better, wiser, and more spiritual person just because you have golden keyed him. A pending lawsuit or other difficulty would probably fade out harmlessly without coming to a crisis, justice being done to all parties concerned. If you find that you can do this very quickly, you may repeat the operation several times a day with intervals between. Be sure, however, each time you have done it, that you drop all thought of the matter until the next time. That is important. We have said that the golden key is simple, and so it is, but of course, it is not always easy to turn. If you are very frightened or worried, it may be difficult at first to get your thoughts away from material things, but by constantly repeating some statement of absolute truth that appeals to you, such as, there is no power but God, or I am the child of God, filled and surrounded by the perfect peace of God, or God is love, or God is guiding me now, or perhaps best and simple of all, just God is with me. However mechanical or dead it may seem at first, you will soon find that the statement has begun to take and that your mind is clearing. Do not struggle violently. Be quiet but insistent. Each time that you find your attention wandering, just switch it straight back to God. Do not try to think out in advance what the solution of your difficulty will probably turn out to be. This is technically called outlining and will only delay the demonstration. Leave the question of ways and means strictly to God. You want to get out of your difficulty, that is sufficient. You do your half, and God will never fail to do his. Whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. End of section. Stay right here, hit that like button. I'm turning the page now to the next section titled Getting Results by Prayer. A great deal of confusion seems to exist in many minds concerning the precise avenue through which the divine power is to be approached and realization and harmony attained. So many schools of thought seem to be competing for the attention of the student. So busy is the printing press, so many new books and pamphlets are written, so many magazines come and go, that people have told me that they have felt quite in despair of ever discovering what it really is that they must do to be saved. Sometimes it seems as though the story of Babel were repeating itself in the metaphysical movement, and yet we all know in our hearts that the true gate is narrow and the real way straight. One well-known Eastern teacher of great spiritual power has actually published a pamphlet from which it appears that the genuine criterion of authenticity is to have no path at all. This is the reductio ad absurdum, which pulls us up short and restores the light. The truth, of course, is this, that the only solution of the problem is definitely to contact the divine power which dwells within your own soul. And having consciously done that, to bring it to bear upon the various difficulties in your life, taking them in due order, that is, attacking the most urgent first. This is the right way of working, and it is the only way that can possibly help you or your affairs in the long run. The real remedy for every one of your difficulties is, as we are told on every page of the Bible, to find and know the indwelling presence. Acquaint now thyself with him, and be at peace. In his presence is fullness of joy. Behold, I am with you always. This then is the task, and the only one, to find and consciously know your own indwelling Lord. You see how the confusion disappears, melts away, and the perfect simplicity of the whole thing emerges once you realize this fact. From this, it is necessarily follows that all schools and churches, all teachers, under whatever name they may be called, all textbooks, magazines, pamphlets, and what not, are but temporary expedients for enabling you to make this contact. In themselves, they are of no importance except as a means to an end. The best mode of approach to divine things for you is the one that happens to make it easiest for you to locate the inner light within yourself. Such things as temperament, education, family tradition, and so on will make one book or one teacher or one school more useful than another, but never as anything more than the means to a certain end. That end is effective self-discovery. Man, know thyself, thy true self, which is the divine I am. And so we see that the best movement, the finest textbook, the greatest teacher is just the one that happens to best fit the individual need. It is entirely a practical matter, and the only test that ever could or ever will be of any use is the practical one of judgment by results. Of course, Jesus anticipated this difficulty and met it, as he has met all our difficulties. He gave us the simple and perfect standard. By their fruits ye shall know them. The great peril to true religion has always been the building up of vested interests in wealthy organizations or in the exploitation by individuals of their own personalities. An organized church is always in danger of developing into an industry which has to provide a living for numerous officials. When this happens, the rank and file are sure to be severely discouraged from seeking spiritual things for themselves at first hand. A tradition of loyalty to the organization is built up as means of self-protection, not loyalty to truth or to your own soul, but it remarked, but to the ecclesiastical machine. Thus the means becomes an end in itself, and spiritual power then fades out. Rash promises and vague claims take the place of real, verifiable demonstrations. In the case of leaders who exploit their own personalities, the student is discouraged from going elsewhere for enlightenment or help. And here again, loyalty to something other than God is allowed to block the avenue of truth and therefore becomes antichrist. What is this but the jealousy of the pretty tradesman who warns a doubtful customer of the danger he runs in going to the shop next door? Remember that you absolutely owe no loyalty whatever to anything or anyone but your own soul and to the furtherance of its spiritual development. Your most solemn duty is to make everything secondary to that. To thine own self be true, and it must follow, as the night the day, thou canst not then be false to any man. Quote by Shakespeare. The first step that the earnest student must take is to settle on a definite method of working, selecting whichever one seems to suit him best, and then giving it a fair trial. That means that you must acquire a definite method or system of spiritual treatment or scientific prayer. Merely reading books, making good resolutions, or talking plausibly about the thing will get you nowhere. Get a definite method of working. Practice it conscientiously every day, and stick to one method long enough to give it a fair chance. You would not expect to play the violin after 2 or 3 attempts, or to drive a car without a little preliminary practice. Having got your method, set to work definitely on some concrete problem in your life, choosing preferably whichever is causing you the most trouble at the moment, or better still, whatever it is that you are most afraid of. Work at it steadily, and if nothing has happened, if no improvement at all shows itself within, say, a couple of weeks at the outside, then try it on another problem. If you still get no result, then scrap that method and adopt a new one. Remember, there is a way out. That is as certain as the rising of the sun. The problem really is not the getting rid of your difficulties, but the finding of your own best method for doing it. If ill health is your difficulty, do not rest until you have brought about at least one bodily healing. There is no malady that has not been healed by someone at some time, and what others have done you can do, for God is principle, and principle changes not. If poverty is the trouble, go to work on that and clear it up once and for all. It can be done. It has been done. Others have done it, and you can. If you are unhappy, dissatisfied with your lot or your surroundings, above all, with yourself, set to work on that. Refuse to take no for an answer and insist upon the happiness and satisfaction that are yours by divine right. If your need is self-expression, artistic, literary, or otherwise, if your heart's desire is to attain to eminence in a profession or some kind of public career, that too, approached in the right spirit, is a legitimate and worthy object, and the right method of scientific prayer will bring you the prize. Keep a record of your results, and on no account be satisfied with anything less than success. Above all things, avoid the deadly error of making excuses. There are no excuses for failing to demonstrate. When you do not demonstrate, it never by any chance means anything except that you have not worked in the right way. Excuses are the true and veritable devil who comes to tempt you to remain outside the kingdom of heaven, while the gate stands open. Excuses, in fact, are the only enemy that you really need to fear. Find the method that suits you. Cultivate simplicity. Simplicity and spontaneity are the secret of effective prayer. Work away steadily. Keep your own counsel. And whatsoever you shall ask in my name, that will I do. End of section. Stay right here. We'll continue on to the next section on this video. The section is titled The Great Adventure. Many people seem to have the impression that the sole object of metaphysical study is the overcoming of difficulties, but to suppose that is to lose all sense of proportion. The truth is to be sought for its own sake. The knowledge of truth is its own reward, and that reward is health, harmony, and prosperity to begin with, But this is only the beginning. The real object of the seeker should be the development of his own higher faculties and powers. In a word, his spiritual evolution. Now it so happens that as fast as one acquires spiritual understanding, his circumstance improves in every respect. His health, his temper, his happiness, and his material surroundings rapidly and automatically change for the better. Per contra, a want of true understanding automatically and necessarily expresses itself in some sort of difficulty on the physical plane, culminating in sin, sickness, and death. When people find themselves in any difficulty, should they have some glimmerings of spiritual truth, they realize, however dimly, that a way out is to be found along the path of spiritual enlightenment, and consequently they study books, consult friends in the movement, ask for treatment or guidance, or take whatever step appears to be appropriate at the moment. This is the natural and proper course to pursue, and provided they understand what it is that they're doing, it is only a matter of time before their difficulties, their ill health, their poverty, their trouble, whatever it is, must disappear. They are, in fact, seeking spiritual enlightenment. They are working for a change in consciousness, and one cannot seek for an improved consciousness without getting it, nor get it without making a demonstration. Misunderstanding and disappointment arise when people mistake the teaching for some kind of elaborate conjuring trick. When a man supposes that by a wave of the hand or the repetition of an incantation, his circumstance can be changed for the better without any corresponding change in his own mentality, he is doomed to disappoint. He has not come into truth, and the truth movement has nothing for him. During the past few years, a large number of people of all sorts have consulted me about their difficulties, and they easily divide themselves into those two groups. Some people, for instance, are in trouble owing to some very obvious defect in character, but are quite unwilling to overcome this defect, or even in many cases to acknowledge it. They wish to continue in their mistake and to have prosperity or happiness as well. Needless to say, for them there is no relief until they have suffered a little more and have been punished sufficiently to make them do what is necessary. The man who drinks, for example, is certain to ruin his business, and you cannot help him as long as he prefers whiskey to prosperity. Of course, if he is trying to give up whiskey, you can help him to do so, and then all will be well. But otherwise, he will just have to go on suffering until his lesson is learned. Other people complain that they have no friends, cannot keep servants, and that they live unhappy, isolated lives. And a few minutes' conversation makes it obvious that there is an atrociously bad temper there, which has driven everyone away. If such people are prepared to work to change themselves, the road is clear. But until they are, there is very little to be done for them. Most of you who read this, however, will be seeking the truth in the right way. And to seek the truth in that spirit is really to have come into truth. You would not have sought me had you not already found me. That being so, you should not allow yourself to be worried or depressed merely because the demonstration is delayed. If you have sufficient understanding to believe in treatment, you have sufficient understanding to know that it must be only a matter of time before you are out of the wood. And what does it really matter whether it is a little sooner or a little later? Any delay in getting results can only be due to one of two things. Either the mental cause of your difficulty is very deeply seated in your consciousness and is requiring a good deal of work, or else you are not yet working in the best way, and if this is so, again, it will be only a matter of time before you find what is the best way for you. In other words, once you are on the path, there is no hurry. Oh, but, says someone, in my case there is the most urgent hurry, because unless I make my demonstration by Saturday, the verdict of the court will be against me, or my creditors will foreclose, or I shall lose the boat, or whatnot. But the answer in truth is still, there is no hurry, for the gates of hell shall never prevail. Let evil do its worst on Saturday. Let the court give its verdict. Let the creditors strike their blow. Let the boat sail. When Monday comes, prayer will still put everything right. If you can get your realization, and if not on Monday, then on Wednesday or Friday or the week after next. Time does not really matter, for prayer is creative and will build the new Jerusalem for you anywhere at any time, irrespective of what may have happened, just as soon as you can get your realization of truth, omnipresent good, Emmanuel, which is God with you. This is the New Jerusalem, which comes down out of heaven like a bride adorned for her husband, and is independent of any conditions on the physical plane. When you are in difficulties, look upon the overcoming of them as a great adventure. Resist the temptation to be tragic, to give way to self-pity or discouragement, and approach the problems as though you were an explorer, seeking a path through darkest Africa, or an Edison working to overcome difficulties in connection with a new invention. You know that there's a way out of any difficulty whatever, no matter what it may be, through the changing of your own consciousness by prayer. You know that by thus raising your consciousness, any conceivable form of good that you can desire will be yours. And you know that nobody else can by any means hinder you from doing this when you really want to do it. Relatives, customers, employers, the government, bad times, so-called nothing can hinder you from the rebuilding of your own consciousness. And this rebuilding is the great adventure. End of section. There is more to come. Let's head over to the next video as we continue on with this book titled Power Through Constructive Thinking by Emmet Fox.